viewers, and welcome to McElroy's Motors, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing this crazy adventure that I had that I didn't want to take. If you guys recall, back to July, I had a 2003 Ford Taurus. And around that time, I went from here in Akron, Ohio to Fort Wayne, Indiana to not only spend time with my brother, but also have a nice long vacation of just over a week. After our time in Fort Wayne, we decided to go down to Kentucky to see what all the fuss was about because he wanted to introduce me to Bojangles, supposedly a local restaurant further south. But that's when some bad news had hit because I ended up getting a flat tire. About 20 minutes later, the police finally arrived, and they asked me for my license, insurance proof, as well as registration. And I gave them my license, but I could not find my registration nor proof of insurance. And that's when I found out that my brother accidentally threw it out when we cleaned out the car before we entered the Kentucky state line. So as such, the officer had cited me for failing to show proof of registration and insurance. And what makes it even more worse is he asked me to appear in court 2 months later. But there was a problem because, as you guys recall, I had sold my Ford Taurus shortly after coming back from the early Ford V8 museum in Auburn, Indiana. And the reason why I sold it is because my buddy needed a car right then and there, so I sold it to him. So I had no way of getting there. My grandfather may have this 2016 Jeep Compass behind me, but there was no way he would let me borrow it for a 6-hour drive to a state that he's never been to. To make things worse, even if it was up to him to drive me all the way out there, he cannot drive at night due to night blindness. And the court wanted me to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, so that means I would have to leave here 35 miles south of Cleveland at around 2:30 in the morning. Knowing the dire situation I was in, I had no physical way of getting there. So what I had to do just to make some money to afford a reliable, usable car was sell the Trabant, and that is something I promised myself and you guys that I would never do again. It was by far the hardest goodbye, but it was worth it. Upon selling the Trabant, I called the Scott County, Kentucky's court office and see if I could get some kind of extension, so therefore I would have a little bit more time to prepare for this upcoming court date. And they were willing to work with me because they gave me a 3-week extension. So instead of showing up on October 3rd, they gave me until October 29th. It was not until October 5th when I picked up the Saturn. And when I did, I had a week to figure out how the heck I was going to get down there, and more importantly still, how much this fine supposedly was. I called them on October 6th, and they said they will have the fine amount within a week. I called on October 13th, and they told me that I will have to figure out, once I get down there, how much the fine was going to be. It was until October 27th when I called them again to see if I would get the same response. And sure enough, I did. 2 days away. No idea how much my fine would be, no idea if I was going to go to jail or not, and they would not tell me how much everything was. So at this point, I started to panic. What made the situation even more stressful was the fact that my Saturn was in the shop not even 2 days prior to the court case. And I will be honest with you, it was not the Saturn's fault at all, more so my clumsiness. I was trying to change the spark plugs on all 4 cylinders, and they would not budge. I would go to change out the spark plug on cylinder 2 when I literally turned the torque wrench literally less than 10 degrees and the spark plug snapped clear in two. So on the morning of October 29th, 2024, I left here in Summit County, Ohio at 2:30 in the morning and drove this 27-year-old car 300 miles all the way to Scott County, Kentucky. Nervous as can possibly be, surrounded by convicts, I thought for sure I was doomed. Until the judge stood up to me and said that my case was dismissed. But the officer who cited me, he was there too. And he tried everything he could to get me to go to jail, including a hidden charge of child endangerment, when I did not have any children in my car whatsoever, nor do I have any kids of my own. That's when the judge decided to have my case when it comes to this overall shenanigans, because he stood up to that officer and says, "Officer Hernandez, I suggest you shut your mouth because you're nothing but a disgrace to Scott County and indeed the entire state of Kentucky." I had never seen that happen in a courtroom ever, except on Law and Order, of course. With a big sigh of relief knowing my case was dismissed and the fact that this 27-year-old car made it 300 miles to Kentucky, I decided to treat myself. 40 miles away from the courthouse, I discovered there's actually a town with my name written all over it. Bear in mind, my name is Nicholas, so I decided to visit Nicholasville. I was so happy to find this town. Now, with me successfully making it to Nicholasville, I actually did find out that there was a Buc-ee's convenience store within about 40 miles away from Nicholasville. So, I drove this old Saturn all the way to the Buc-ee's, and boy was I in for a surprise, because this was the biggest gas station I had ever seen. Bear in mind, I was born in Georgia, but I moved up here to Ohio at a very young age, so I never really got to experience Buc-ee's until now, and I was not disappointed. Judging by these photos here, you can definitely tell that if you didn't look hard enough in Buc-ee's, you're definitely not going to look hard enough, because they had everything. I mean, we're talking just about literally all the clothes, all the food, all the drinks, you name it, it had it. Despite all of it though, this 27-year-old Saturn made the 750-mile trip without any major concerns. I was so relieved to be home because upon pulling into my driveway, I was driving 750 miles on 36 hours of absolutely zero sleep. So anyway, viewers, that concludes today's video of the unwanted but yet awesome adventure that I had this past couple weeks. So if you liked it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I have more videos of the Saturn and other adventures coming along soon.